Hey there, Stampers. This is Sherry Roth. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Alberta, Canada, and I'm excited to be here today to share with you a card layout idea where you can take an entire sheet of paper, make 4 cards, and use almost every last bit of the DSP. So I've chosen a pattern from the Hues of Happiness DSP, and what I've done is I've taken it and I've cut it into 3, 4 by 12-inch strips. And then each one of those strips you're going to cut in the same way. So I'm using this one. This is my last strip. So I'll share the other 3 cards that I've already made with it in just a second. So we're going to rotate it and we're going to cut it at 5 inches. And then we're going to cut it at 3 inches. And then we'll have this little bit. This little bit we'll set aside, and I'll explain what I did with that on the other 2 cards in just a moment. Okay, so now we've got these 2 pieces that we're going to use on this card. And I'm going to bring in the Basic Borders dies, and I'm going to use this one right here. And I'm going to cut it. I'm going to flip this one over because I'm going to use this side. So I want to see kind of what the main colors are in this, and Pool Party are the main colors. So I'm going to put it kind of like, so that the point is closer to the left and it's kind of at an angle like this. Okay. So now I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. I'll position this on here. Position this the way I want it. That looks good. Put that top plate on and feed it through. Okay. And then we've got these 2 pieces here. Okay, we're going to set this piece aside. We will use that in a little bit. I've got a thick white card base that I'm just going to fold in half. My bone folder is not handy, so we will just use my finger. All right, and we're going to stick this on first. So this piece is going to go on the bottom. So you'll want to pick a pattern paper where both sides look really good and together. And Stampin' Up! Is very good at designing their papers so that both sides look great. And I chose a pattern where one of them had a big, bold pattern on one side and then something a little more subtle on the second side. Okay, so we're going to stick that on there, and then we'll add this one over top. So this is a great card idea to use up some of your pattern paper. We all have so much pattern paper. And this is kind of one of the things that I'm going to share. I'm going to share several different ways that you can use pattern paper. Well, actually not just pattern paper, but your crafting supplies, so you can use them up. With the catalog on the verge of retiring at the time that I'm filming this, I always love to do Scrap Your Stash classes because it helps me kind of get a good chunk of things used up before they retire. Because I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I often don't use products that are retired. So this is a great opportunity for me to kind of use some of that stuff up. So if you're interested in learning more about the Scrap Your Stash class, I will post a link in the description. Okay, so from that leftover bit from this piece, I just cut off a strip. This is probably about 3/4 of an inch, but however much space you have there, you can make it as thick as you want it. That will just depend on how far down you did your little, your angled piece. And we're gonna do the flower side up. And then this can be used on the inside, just like that. All right, so we've used almost all of it. We still have this little bit here, which we'll come back to. This piece I'm going to set aside. All right, now we need to work on our focal point. So I've got a piece of, or I should have. Just gonna grab a scrap of white, and I'm going to use the Something Fancy bundle. So this is from the January to April mini catalog. I'm really hoping that this carries over into the next annual catalog because I absolutely love it, especially the dies, because they're just so versatile. They could be used with so many different stamp sets. But I'm gonna use the thank you greeting from here, and then I'm going to use this die here. Okay, so we're gonna pull this in. I'm gonna use some Memento ink. And we're just going to stamp the thank you right on here. And then we're going to cut it out. So I'm going to bring back my machine, my die cutting machine. We'll just position this on here. Line it up. And then feed it through. So for my Scrap Your Stash class, I plan on sharing lots of tips and tricks on how to use up your supplies. Some of the projects will be card making, some of them might be 3D projects, and then there will be some scrapbooking projects as well. Okay, so this is going to go on here, but I wanted to step it up a little bit. So I am going to look through my scraps of ribbon. So I have this little jar that any leftover pieces of ribbon or ribbon that I pull off of projects that I've been gifted or that have been wrapped around, I will often save those. So this ribbon happens to be Pool Party. It was right on the top, so I'm going to use that. So this is another great thing, is if you keep your scraps so that they're handy, you will use them more often. So I have this jar that's kind of sitting on a stand right behind me so that it's easily accessible. Okay, so we're going to add just a little strip of seal adhesive. I cut, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 inches. Just going to fold it, add that on there like that. And then if you follow me often, you know that I'm a lover of baker's twine. So I've got some baker's twine here that I'm going to add. I'll just use a mini glue dot just to pull this off. And we'll pop it on here. So I've already pulled out my supplies that I'll be using for my Scrap Your Stash class. Not only have I pulled out some Stampin' Up! Product, but I've pulled out some other product as well. I don't very often use other product, but on occasion, if I fall in love with something that I've seen elsewhere, I will purchase it. And so I've pulled some of that out and kind of combined a few things to create a kit that I'm going to work with. The other thing I will be doing in class is I will be using some of the stamps and dies and bundles and things that I think might be retiring. At the time that the class goes live, we will know what is retiring because the class is on March 31st and April 1st. However, at the time that I'm filming this, we don't know yet. So, and some of the videos will be pre-recorded. So I will have planned some of the projects already. So it's just a guess, but it's a great way for me to get one last use out of some of the products that I think are going to retire. Okay, so I've pulled out these glossy dots. These are also one of the products that I've pulled out for my Scrap Your Stash class. And my intent is to make a good dent in them, hopefully use them up. So I'm using some of these Pool Party colored dots to add on here. And there is a fun card here. And let me share the other ones. So this is all from the same piece of DSP. So remember, we started with a 4 by 12, 3 4 by 12 inch strips. We cut it at 5 inches, and then we cut it at 3 inches, and a 5-inch piece and a 3-inch piece is used on each card. And then once you've done 2 strips, you'll end up with 2 pieces that measure 4 by 4. So that's what I used. I believe it was this one that I used 2 pieces that are 4 by 4. So this piece was here, and then this bottom piece was the second piece that was flipped over. Okay, so all 4 of these were created with the 3 4 by 12 inch strips. I have this piece left over, and then I have these pieces left over. These pieces I'm going to toss. I'm not going to use those, but this, what I will do is I will fussy cut some of these florals, and for example, even around the edges, those florals are still great because you can pop them kind of around or at the side. Actually, the flower is upside down, so I'd probably put it right here. So I'd fussy cut around that and then add that as a little added detail on the inside of the card. And I'll do that for each one of these flowers. And even the leaves as well, because that is a great way to use up your patterned paper. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you are not yet a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. I'd love for you to join me, and I don't want you to miss out on any of my future videos. And if the Scrap Your Stash class interests you, I will put a link to where you can find more information in the description below. And I will also link to the 2 other Scrap Your Stash videos that I've shared so far. All right, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.